Our topic today is transactional analysis for organizations. As you very well remember, Eric Berne himself has written a book about the structure and dynamics of organizations and groups, and it was in the 60s, and now we have developed TA in organizations and TA for organizations over about 50 years, and I will present the material and the knowledge we have about TA for organizations in 2012. Firstly, I want to begin with a TA identity statement. TA identity in a modern form is made of 6 principles, and I relate to Bernd Schmidt in his paper of 1989 and a paper of myself of 2012. The first of the 6 principles for the identity of TA is that it is based on transactions. Based on transactions means that all interpretation and all conclusions we can have in transactional analysis is based on the term of transaction. That means on the exchange between people, on the relationship between people. So we do not interpret something out of the space or out of certain hypotheses like the Oedipus conflict or something else, but we always look at the real transactions of people, and we take our information from this. Then the second point is TA is humanistic. TA is based in the humanistic psychology, so to say it has a positive image of the human being, a positive image of all the potentials and capabilities human beings have. The third aspect is TA is model constructing. TA practitioners construct models about what they see in psychological or professional phenomena, and they test these models to reality to somehow reduce the complexity of the reality or the over-complexity, and to make it handleable. The fourth aspect is TA is experimental. We don't think that we are always in possession of the real truths, but we try something and we are experimental in the work with our clients. Let it be the person as a client, the individual, or a whole system and organization as a client. The fifth aspect is that TA is context related, that we always keep in mind that the person or the organization is embedded in a bigger context, and there are very different context relationships that these systems are embedded in. The sixth point is TA is pluralistic, integrative, and based on an international culture. So TA had no problem with globalization. It always was globalized since Eric Berne founded his San Francisco seminar and his so-called International Transactional Analysis Association. It was not that international at this point, but it grew very fast to an international organization. And by the high grade of standardization and structure in the TA associations, which is really combined to some aspects of TA itself. TA always kept standardization also internationally, and so it didn't need any globalization. So another point of it, to make it very simple, is in TA identity. We think that TA is what TA trained people do and develop. There is no censor or limit that we say this is TA and this is not TA. If it is a real question or there is a doubt, that we can say if it is not coming from another method or definitely another concept, that we say TA people do work and develop TA concepts. So TA wasn't closed after the death of the first generation of TA. So what is TA in the O field, in the organizational field? We have to keep in mind that the old world is very big. There is the economic organizational theory, there is the academic organizational psychology, there is the organizational sociology in the academic world, for example, represented by the big journals like the Academy of Management Journal or the Academy of Management Research. And a lot of methods are around that. There is TA, there is systemic method, there are a lot of eclectic methods. And TA is a small player in this concept, but it is a player that can be very practical, very integrative for other aspects, and so play an even bigger role. So what is the topic in current O theory? The current organizational theory is looking for so-called configurations, as Per Fiss said in an article in 2007 in the Academy of Management Journal. Configurations are combinations of variables that are connected to the success of the organization. So there is no organization per se, and there is no success of a standard figure, but we are looking from a research point of view to find out what are the combinations of variables that make an organization efficient, that make it successful. So also combined with this, there is the concept of equifinality. Equifinality says there are some ways, or even many ways, that lead to Rome, as it is said in the idiom. So there is no certain configuration that has to be reached, but sometimes we have two different organizations in the same market that have totally different inner organization principles and have the same success. So on this background, let's talk about the TA world. A good model for analyzing an organization by TA concepts is the so-called systemic organizational analysis that implies a lot of TA interpretations and TA concepts in it. By this systemic organizational analysis, the organization is viewed by four fields. First there is an organizational structure, then there are typical organizational processes that you find in every organization, then there are so-called organizational balances, and there are so-called organizational pulsations, and I will describe these four areas in short. Structure means there is first the hardest factor in an organization is where is the main attention of the people in the organization. That means what are the topics and what are the themes, what are the issues that the people in the organization are really dealing with, what is in their mental model about the organization, and what are they really spending their time with. Second point is roles. What is the organizational role configuration in a certain organization? On this point, the organizations are very different. And the third point of the structure aspect are the so-called relations, and we come back to these points later. Processes, three typical processes are you will find in every organization. There is communication, there is problem solving, and there is success in an organization, and that all three are processes. That communication is a dynamic process, problem solving is an ongoing dynamic process, and also success is a process. It is not a state of the organization, but it is a process how is dealt with success. The other two fields, the balances and the pulsations, are more systemic fields. They are taking from systemic concepts. Typical systemic concept is the concept of equilibrium. That means that every organization tends to a certain equilibrium or to some kind of equilibrium as a typical striving of people that they always have in certain or in the system they are living in. Combined with this, there is the topic of recursivity. That is a concept founded by Stafford Beer, an English organizational researcher, who said that a good organization is made by the same principles. That what if you look at the board of the organization, you will find the same principles of, for example, of how they organize themselves, as if you are going to the workers' meeting or to an administrative department of the organization. And the better the recursivity is, that the better the organization is, and it is not too strange parts of the organization, that if someone moves from one point to the other, that he wouldn't recognize the organization anymore. Then at the last field there is the pulsation field. Pulsation means the inner and outer pulsation. Outside pulsation is a concept that builds on Eric Berne's boundary concept. There is an outside boundary of the organization. Are you a member of the organization, or are you not a member of the organization? And even particularly in change processes, the outside organization boundary changes somehow. It changes in its dimension, and it changes in its permeability or semi-permeability, how people or informations or something else, materials, can come out from inside to outside and from outside to inside. Also, we have inside pulsation. That is the kind of boundary system that is between the departments of the organization, or between certain subsystems of the organizations. So now we have an overview, and let us look into the single dimensions, and by this combine some basic TA concepts to this. First, let's start with the dynamics of attention. As I said, the attention is the basis unit of focusing the mental and actional forces of people. So it is a basic unit in an organization, and it has to do with mental forces and with actional forces, what people have in their mind and what they're really doing. And organizations differ very much from in this kind of variable, what people are really dealing with. There is one organization, they have their strategic goals in mind. Another organization, the people always spend the half of the week was talking about the local football club, or they are dealing with their anxiousness about the upcoming of some McKinsey consultants in the organization since last week. So the attention is it seems like a soft factor, but it is a very hard factor, because where the attention is, there is the money, there is the investment, there is what people are really doing. So it is, to keep it in TA, it is a further development of the idea of the frame of reference of the Schiff researching group from 1976. That means the frame of reference was defined as the kind of view that I have of myself, of the others and of the world, and a certain point of frame of reference is also in every organization. What is the frame of reference they have about what they are doing in strategic, operative, even in normative dimensions, how they spend their energy. So TA concepts, after the Schiff concept, that was not focused to TA in organizations, that was focused on the psychotherapy field, but later people brought in a holistic perspective in the attention field for the whole organization. The whole organization means that it's a very different point from dealing or working with single person. The whole organization means that the organization is the client, not a single person is the client. And then, as I already said, Eric Berne wrote a book about that, was quite holistic, his book, but it is difficult to understand, and he brought a lot of concepts and words in it that are hard to read, and their definitions are not in a very communicative way for so-called other methods in the organizational field. But then we had some kind of a process of coming narrow to the organizational research and what is discussed in the organizational field. And the first, I cannot mention all, but I will mention some of the concepts. There was first there was the Mountain and Davidson paper in the 2005 TAJ, where Anita Mountain and Chris Davidson focused on the whole organization and wrote about the concept how they view a whole organization. Then comes Rolf Walling of Germany in 2005, also published in the TAJ, who proposed an organizational view of the whole organization based on the ego states. I will come to that later. Then in the book that I had the pleasure to write with Thomas Steinert in 2006, we brought together some of these kind of approaches to the whole organization, and we wrote about the psychodynamic approach to organizational TA, about the systemic way, and about the TA integrative or TA classical way, and also we both described an integrative picture. I call it the systemic organizational analysis of the whole organization based on TA concepts. As an example, what I will stress now is the health of the organization concept by Bernd Schmidt, for example, as a good concept that you can use to describe a whole organization. And he says the health of an organization is a multiple product of integration and integrity. What means integration is the capability of an organization to fit all relevant aspects. For example, the strategic management, the operative management, the technique, and all the people who are there. How is the organization capable to integrate all these factors? That is the one criterion for an organization to get into a healthy way. And the second, he says, is the integrity. And that is the capability of an organization to integrate human beings with their meaning. So how does the organization create a common meaning, and the meaning for all the inhabitants, so to say, for all the members of the organization. It's more a kind of normative management. And he says that is in a multiple connection, what means that if one of the factors is zero, you have a zero product. So you have to have both aspects of an organization. The integration and the integrity. The one is more the kind of systemic perspective, how to bring together the lot of elements of an organization, and on the other hand, the meaning construction point of the organization. So let me come to the second point, and we like to bring three of the points, and then we would like to invite you to an exercise to that. So now to the second point, the role dynamics. Roles emerge in the overlapping field of systems and individuals. If you look at the set of the individual and you look at the set of the organization, then there is an overlapping field in the middle. This is the field of the role. So the role in the overlapping field of the individual, of the person in the system. The definition is a role is a coherent system of attitudes, feelings, behavior, perspective on reality, and accompanying relationships. This is also an original definition by Bernd Schmidt. It means that the classical concept of TA, of the ego states, is enriched by the context variable. And as it says, it is not only attitudes, feelings, and behavior as it is defined in an ego state, but also if you think about the role, the system context comes to it, and you have also the perspective on the reality that is in a certain system that is different in a private system than in an organizational system or in a certain community system. And also you have certain accompanying relationships in this kind of field of context. If you are, for example, if you take the professional system of psychologists, they have a certain codex and a certain ethics. And if you are with lawyers, there is a very different kind of accompanying relationships that you have if you are in this professional system. So, a very interesting model that also focuses the role level is also made in the classical book of Eric Berne. He wrote about the leadership, and there is a very new book of a French TA practitioner of François Verjonjan. And Verjonjan wrote about the so-called TOB. In French it is called the Théorie organisationnelle de Berne, what means the organizational theory of Eric Berne. And there are divided or differentiated 5 aspects of the leadership role. And he says there is a so-called responsible leader. If you are looking at the organizational chart, there is a responsible leader, that is a certain role aspect. Then there is the effective leader. The effective leader means who is really making the decisions in the organization. That hasn't to be the one who is in the chart. Maybe it's one behind, or one spin doctor who is there, who is at the ribs and really making the decision. Then there is a third part. There is the psychological leader who is in contact with the people, who is asked when there is a problem, for example. And then Eric Berne already said, and Verjonjan also focused on it, that there is the so-called euhemerus, the original founder of the organization, who is like a ghost still in the organization and always is quoted when the problem is to be solved. So like Werner von Siemens in the Siemens company, they sometimes say, as Werner von Siemens did this time, or maybe another one. And then there is the so-called primal leader as the last aspect of the role concept of Berne. The primal leader is the one who is now responsible for the canon of the organization, for the codex and for the rules that are now. It can be a revolutionary to the euhemerus, and let's say if as you know, companies are changing very much in the dynamic world. So as a Siemens concern today, for example, they have an Austrian guy in a CEO position, and he is brought in a new codex, and you can say he is a new primal leader after they had some problems with their earlier leader, and now they are very much focusing, for example, on corporate social responsibility after they had real corruption cases in I think 20 countries of the world, although they had already written down CSR. So these different leadership levels or leadership roles are an example how TA focuses certain roles, and in this kind of leadership role. As a further concept on this level, I would like to invite you to look at the so-called role world model that I expanded to a 5 role world model. So to say, if you work with people in organizations, you have to know something about how they are involved in their role worlds. So to say, like the certain stages or typical stages of where they are playing a role. The first is the private world. Everyone of us, I hope, has a private world, or is even a son or a daughter of someone. So there are private roles in a private world. And then for us in the organizational field, there is another division, very important. It is a division between the organizational world and the professional world, as I already mentioned in the example before about the psychologists and the lawyers. I focus on the professional world, and there is also the organizational world. It makes a real difference in what kind of organizational world, for example, the psychologist or the lawyer has to work, and what are the certain organizational rules or organizational culture rules this kind of professional is working in. Is it a revolutionary state that a psychologist is working as a personnel development manager in a company, or is it usual? That makes a big difference, or the same for others. So there is always to look at what are the organization or the professional world, are they compatible in an organization, or is there some kind of sand in the machine if you come with high professional standards into an organizational role. So let me add two other roles that are more and more important in the nowadays world, and that is the so-called community role. What are you doing in political world, in religious scenes, or what is your contribution to your community? Are you involved in some initiative for poor people, or in the Lions Club in Attac, or in Rotary Club, or a political party, or something else? That all is community world, and that is very important. And the last and the fifth world is a so-called consumer world. What is your style of consuming products? Are you fixed to luxury products, or are you living a poor life? Are you what are you interested? What do you need a 500 Mercedes-Benz, or are you content with a little Chevrolet or a Fiat, or whatever? That is the consumer role in a world where people are, as leadership people, are viewed in a whole. They somehow give a model by all these five perspectives in their world. And if we work with organizational people, and we look at these worlds, and I think that is the strength of TA, then that we can look at these perspectives and find out how it is compatible to the tasks of the organization. So let me stop at this point and